Move on to discussion action items. Item 1, Youth Together student engagement.
Yes, President Dice and members of the board, it's a pleasure to introduce this item to you, although I will pass this to our distinguished guests who are here this evening. As the board is well aware, when the ECCL was developing as a vision, one of the major components of the vision was to really ensure that all stakeholder groups had input into the process. And one of the most important stakeholder groups was to hear student voice. And so we have been blessed with having our students become actively engaged in the ECCL vision. And so this evening, it's a pleasure to introduce to you Corey Wexler, who is the ECCL student engagement consultant, who has been working with the students, and she will introduce and present this item.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? I haven't had a voice in the last 6 months, so I'm glad to have the mic. Tell me if you need me to be louder and I'll try. So I've been with you for the last 3 years, supporting the Emeryville Center of Community Life student engagement efforts. It's been quite a ride. I've spent the last 3 years looking for and seizing upon opportunities to increase student voice in decision-making, both about the future ECCL site and about other students' current educational experiences. As my contracted time comes to a close, I really want to take this opportunity to summarize these efforts of the last 3 years and to be part of a conversation about moving forward and how to keep these efforts alive. I'm in the company of several middle school students and high school students this evening who are really excited to share their work with you. And so what I'm going to do is just give you a brief overview of the last 3 years. I'll keep it really short, and then they'll come up and they'll share their own work. And what we're going to talk about this evening is really what's been going on now and what's moving, so we can start to think about how to keep it going. So to summarize this work, I was brought in June of 2012, and the primary focus of that time was to think about the transition of the ESS into interim facilities and programs. I coordinated and facilitated focus groups for the 6th through 11th graders. The ECCL staff and school principals wanted to make sure all these students had accurate information about what was happening and also had a voice in what was happening, and had an opportunity to really express their feelings about it. The high school students were further asked to contribute ideas to the creation of the interim high school, and a bunch of them participated in the summer preparation for the new space. For the middle school students, they were also invited to take part in a gallery walk of design images and really give feedback to the schematic design of the ECCL space. And as a side note, as we were doing garden design work this year, one of the students said, "Oh, wouldn't it be really cool if we had those moss chairs?" And that was totally in, like, pulling out of his brain from years ago when we looked at these designs. He remembered it and was really excited about it. So that was a nice connect of different efforts. So year 2 had 2 different areas of emphasis. The first one was to increase students' critical thinking about the educational system and develop a range of skills that directly supported their ability to contribute to the 3 strands of the ECCL work. So around relationship development, supports development, and capital project. The second emphasis area was to deepen relationships between students and elected officials, as you know, and to really deepen their understanding of the different governing bodies so they could participate more. And one of the kind of lovely successes of year 2 was that we had the student elected official convening, in which there's a really wonderful day of dialogue between folks. That summer, about a dozen 8th through 11th graders also participated in the Health and Wellness Center, Health and Wellness Summer Intensive that first introduced the idea of starting up a student advisory board. So this last year, year 3, built directly upon the other 2 years with really an eye towards institutionalizing these student leadership systems. And so Youth Together, who worked with us a bit in the second year doing leadership trainings, was contracted to be at ESS full-time and really have a presence and help with organizing efforts there. We rolled out the Health and Wellness Center Youth Advisory Board, and also began the Annie Yates Learning Garden Design Project. And also we're part of really thinking about and helping to bring on a student onto the COC again. So before I have folks come up to talk about these three areas, the Youth Together work, the Learning Garden Design project, and also the Health and Wellness Youth Advisory Board, I really want to bring your attention to the fact that while there have been numerous staff and teachers, including Anna Creta Allen, Will Shavrin, Brenda Collins, Jack Lathan, Ms. Turner, Mr. Rogers, Juliet Dunn, Lynn Perkins, Lauren LaPlante, Ashley McHughes, Tom Rush, Mark Cyberlick. So many people have been involved. The other truth is that there's no adult point person lined up, as far as I'm aware, to continue these efforts next year. And there's not presently a contract for Youth Together to be in Emeryville again and to continue the work that Celeste has done. I know there's conversations about that, and I'll get to that later, but there's not a contract right now. And so as you listen to these end-of-the-year reports, I really want you to keep asking yourself, what will it take to continue this work? Who needs to be at the table to make decisions about the future of this work? And in what direction do we even want this work to go as you get closer and closer to the new site? So having said that, I want to first invite, I'm going to have the young folks go first. I want to invite up the Annie Yates students to talk about the garden. If you'll come up. Do I need to do anything to get this going?
Yeah.
Where's our tech person?
Brian.
I have it up here.
It's down in the dock, Mark.
You have to turn the thing on.
All right. So one of the really exciting collaborative projects this year has been the Annie Yates Learning Garden Design Project. How do I go forward with this?
You can use the
Is it a
clicker.
slideshow?
It is in slideshow.
You can press the space bar or the arrow keys. Space bar or arrow keys.
So just to refresh your memories, in the new CCL design, there's a designated space for a learning garden. This space sits between the K-8 building and the field in that little triangular corner. And here's a close-up of that space. You can see the stairs that go up to the main building right there. So students have been meeting since February of this year with myself, Ms. Turner, and Mr. Rogers. They've been working with the school gardener in the garden to deepen their relationship to gardening, as well as increase their gardening skills. Mark Cyberlick has generously spent many afternoons with us, introducing aspects of design and construction and taking students through the design process. The students are full of creative, thoughtful ideas, fully holding the potential of this learning garden and fully committed to seeing this project through to the end. They're here to share tonight their work with you. I will say one of the awesome things about this group is it's really hard to rein them in. Even 5 minutes ago, I was saying to Daniel, stick to the speech, because they're full of ideas. Every week, they're like, what about this idea? And we could do this with the garden. So it's really, really exciting. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I am a 6th grader at Annie Yates. I'm here to talk about our garden and our ideas for the new learning garden. This is Strickland, Chad, and Alex. We are part of the garden club, also otherwise known as the Guardians of the Garden. We want you to know that we worked really hard on the designs of the garden, and we want you to take our ideas seriously. Next year, we want a program with the architect, contractor, and Corey so we can help design the garden. We would visit other schools to get more ideas about garden designs. Continue to work on the garden designs with the architect and contractor and Corey. Share this design with other students and get their ideas. And we want to continue gardening at Annie Yates with Miss Leslie.
We are designing a learning garden where kids and adults can relax and learn. Some things we have been thinking about are a space for insects, the seating area and how it can be used as a learning space, ways to attract and learn about birds, the raised planter beds and how we want them to look like, trees and the trees and the compost areas.
So I wanted to share with you one aspect of the work this year has been to study the different physical components of a garden and identify what has to be in a garden so it can really run as a garden. And so students have looked at a ton of images and have gone to several gardens and started to identify, oh, this is what feels good to us, or this is what's exciting to us. So talking about raised beds and talking about what the materials are, what the shapes would be, how we could build up since it's a fairly small space and really maximize airspace, how to create a really lovely seating area that really draws people into that space and can be used as a learning area, a place to gather, and also having comfortable seating, formal seating. And again, like they mentioned, figuring out how does compost live there so it can be part of it. Another aspect which we've been doing a lot of in the last couple of weeks is really looking at and exploring design and how do you lay out a space. And the students and I have had so much fun learning from how you can just kind of free up your brain and move pieces around and create really, really different spaces. So those big round areas could be big shaded tree areas and the planter boxes and seating. And you just get a sense of their brains going and imagining the layouts of these spaces. So this is where they are in the process, right? They've visited spaces, we've talked about the different aspects of a garden, and they're just starting to explore the layout of this garden so they could even have a proposal to come to the board with. You want to say anything?
Do you guys have any questions?
For the students?
No, not right now. I'm fine.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's it. I could have had a question.
I know, you know what, we may have questions and we set you up by letting you sit down. So why don't you come back up real quick and, we let you get away too quick.
They have a lot to share about it, so definitely fire away.
Go for it.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious about how much time do you guys spend on, have you spent on design on some of the physical spaces? What's your typical time that you spend each day or during the week doing the work that you've been doing so far?
An hour and 15 minutes each a day.
Really? So you guys are very committed. Each week?
Each week, sorry.
But I'm sure you're thinking about it every hour of each day, so.
Oh, we actually have it on Mondays and Wednesday.
Oh, okay, okay,
We do
okay.
one each day because they're really different. Some days we're in the classroom both days, but some days we're not in the classroom.
Some days we plan out the architect. The architect. We measured. We went outside. We measured how long the garden will be, and we talked about the raised beds and the compost area, and then we talked about aquabots. Aquaponics.
There's a lot of excitement about aquaponics. You might want to ask what that is.
So what is that?
Right,
Because it sounds like a transformer. So what's aquaponics?
Aquaponics is when you have fish in a garden space, and then, well, basically the fish droppings, they fertilize the plants.
Oh, so a little ecosystem.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We're really excited about this.
Oh,
We're excited to have the system and take care of that system.
cool.
So first, very well done. I could not imagine at your age getting up and speaking in a mic to a bunch of people. I'm still nervous speaking in a mic now. But I would like to know if any of you have used what you've learned and taken it home to maybe some garden space that you might have at home, or even if it's just a pot, or talk to your parents about doing a raised bed.
Like,
Well, really, what I've been doing at home is taking some of the garden ideas and putting them in my own house. Like we wouldn't put raised beds, but we put beds on the ground, and they were in viney stuff that would go up and cover, and yeah, that's it.
We also talk about kind of insects and
Oh, and
butterflies, because you're the one running and inspiring that idea.
in the garden, we want to have insects and stuff so we can study about them, and how I always have butterflies that I raised from when they're day one, so when they were eggs. So I want to have an opportunity to do that in the new garden.
Okay.
So I want to echo Member Ash's comments. You did a very good job in your presentation. I have two questions, though. So it's my understanding that, you all have been working with the architects in some of this, endeavors as well, correct? Some of your efforts. So tell me this, how has it helped working with adults, and how have it benefited you all working with adults, and what have you got out of that, if anything?
Like, if we worked by ourselves, we wouldn't have gone we have gone far, but not as far as we could have gone with the adults, because, like, they helped us, like, plan out more complex stuff. Like we did, like, simple stuff, and, like, they brought up, like, we brought up aquaponics, but then they brought up, like, ramadas and good seating areas. So, like, without, like, they help us, like,
Okay.
if, like, example, like, if we're food, like, without them, we wouldn't be the whole set. So, like,
Right.
like, we need them to
Right.
be part of the set.
nice.
So, yeah.
So what I'm hearing, that your experience working with adults was a positive experience. Okay, great. Second,
I think Mark.
second question. How has it been with you all working together as a team? And how has that helped you in your experience working with the garden?
Well, to me, I like working with people, so this is, like, really not, like, it's fun, and, like people say there's no I in team, so, like, this is fun working with them.
Okay, great. And you guys, and it appears that you all have been able to have a greater working together versus working alone?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Well, if we never had a team,
Mm-hmm.
like we wouldn't have went as far, because some people had ideas and some people had different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So we wouldn't have more than one idea.
Right.
We would have like a little ideas. Yeah, we wouldn't be complete.
Right, okay, all right.
That's
Great.
adorable.
Well, like without the adults, it wouldn't have helped us as much.
Mhm.
We would have like done a bunch of crazy stuff like
Right.
that we couldn't do.
Right.
Like we wouldn't have thought of all the permits we would have to do for like the Ramada,
That's right.
and like the budget. We wouldn't have known the budget either.
Right.
Excuse
Okay.
me.
All right.
Budget.
Good job. Good job.
That word budget. Okay.
One more question. So you can study horticultural or landscape architecture in college. Do any of you have an interest to pursue this as maybe a career or a deeper level of study?
Well, when I grow up, I wanted to start like a daycare, and like in the daycare, I wanted to have like mini programs about gardening, where they learn about insects, and like I would take like small yogurt cups, wash them out, and like poke holes, put rocks, and then teach them about like mini raised beds, and like how to what they pick their own plants and stuff. I would start that. Yeah.
Okay. So I got one more question.
Yeah.
So, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you could ask the question.
No, go ahead and answer.
Okay. Well, I am actually interested in doing architect design because I like designing things. Like the garden, I had fun designing the garden with Miss Corey and the architect. I thought that was very fun, and I want to continue doing it.
That's great.
Great.
That's
So,
great.
Mike, and you kind of you kind of segued into my question. So, as you all are in the 6th grade, correct?
Yes.
So, tell me this: how do you feel about Youth Together as an organization coming
That's
in?
wrong group.
Oh, wrong group. You're not in Youth Together. Okay.
That's Corey's team.
How you feel about Miss Corey and the work that she's done with you all, and do you feel that we ought to, keep her and continue some of the activities that you all have been learning?
Well, I've been I was talking about during the summer if we had a program with Corey.
There you go.
About garden, helping design more, and Corey, she's really fun with us. She brings us snacks, we need brain food. We need brain food.
Right.
She just helps. She helps us a lot. She brings supplies we need and everything. She's like our mom, a stepmom, or second mom.
That's funny.
So I do have.
And we want more. Oh, you have something to add? To the microphone. You good? Oh.
You talked about some of the trips you went. Oakland is really a center for aquaponics. There's a gentleman who's doing some really great work, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, and it's killing me. But he's really looking at famine relief throughout the world. Were you guys able to go visit his? No? Okay, I'm just. You went to Berkeley? Uh-huh. And do they have an aquapod set up?
No, they don't have aquaponics, just
Although
Microphone.
Martin Luther King has the pond with fish. I don't know if it's from hydroponics.
Aquaponics, yeah, no hydroponics.
But that's awesome. That's awesome to know. That would be a really good follow-up.
Yeah, he's doing really, he's an engineer, and he's from Africa and just doing some really amazing work with building these self-contained units.
I have a question for you guys. So, what is the system of aquaponics? Like, I know you guys said it's fish droppings and it helps fertilize, but why and how?
And share what you know. It's okay not to know everything, right? We're studying this.
Well, the person that actually suggested aquaponics is not here right now. She kind of went away from the group. Yeah. So I just know how it works. I don't know the system.
Okay, can you tell me how it works then? You don't know.
I saw a video and the fish are in the pond and when the fish poop, it's the fertilizer for the plants, and then the plants grow and they produce fresh water for the fish to live. So they both get a win-win. The fish get to live and then the plants get to grow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I'm moved. I will say that I was a student in the district many moons ago, and I had an opportunity to work with architects, which was a different program. There was no building of ECCL or anything like that. But I was in high school, and I see the value in taking that to such a lower grade. It makes a whole lot of sense. You guys have brought so much energy to such a profession that I don't know that you knew all this before, right? You're like, no. So, I mean, I'm sure it's made a huge impact, just as you said. So it's really remarkable how you've been able to present it and what you've learned and the excitement you obviously have to come a day before school is out to express that. So, well done and well guided. Really amazing job.
And I just want to say, keep doing the work that you're doing as far as working together as a team, doing community engagement, public speaking, working with adults, because it can do nothing but help you as you grow older. So you guys are at a great start, and you're doing a great job. Good job tonight.
Thank you.
wish I was in the 6th grade.
invite Celeste up, and she's going to speak both about, she's going to do a summary of the Youth Together work of this year, and also of this smaller project that she and I have been, do you need this moved totally? She's also going to speak about this smaller project, the Health and Wellness Center Youth Advisory Board, that we started earlier this year and have been coordinating and facilitating together.
Hi, everybody. I've been up here a lot this year, but I'm still nervous each time. So, Youth Together, we work in 5 school districts, 5 school sites in 3 districts. We work at Skyline, Fremont, and Castlemont in Oakland. We're in Richmond and at Richmond High School, and now we're also at Emery Secondary School. So we joined up with Emery about a year and a half ago, and we did some work around the ECCL, and then we had the opportunity to have a larger contractor to come in and run our full organizing program, and I joined Emery as a Youth Together organizer. In that time, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, we've got a lot done. In a little bit of time, I was going over all of our accomplishments with our young people today, and they saw their names on the website, and they were like, "We did that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we did that." Like they've learned a lot of organizing skills, and so I'll just go through the story of how that was able to happen. The first part is the leadership class. Basically every day except Tuesday, I facilitate the AS
And Wednesday.
And Wednesday, I facilitate the ASB class. Bree is in my class. And in leadership, we cover everything from public speaking, power and oppression, cycles of violence, how to do basic community organizing. We talked a lot about ethnic studies.
Are you supposed to be in the presentation? Okay.
No. We spoke a lot about ethnic studies because we believe that development of self makes a better leader for the school. And we took a good portion of our students to our annual ethnic studies conference at UC Berkeley, which we host for a series of 4 high schools all around the Bay. We did media literacy. We watched a lot of movies, and then we deconstructed them to talk about like what are the stereotypes, what are the themes, how does this affect your psyche, how does violence play out, and then how do we take that and bring that back to our school environment? How do we walk around with that in our communities, right? So we talked a lot about trauma. We talked about relationships and boys and girls a lot. We did some post-high school planning, so career, job readiness, how to do resumes. We learned how to organize really strong fundraisers. We did some conflict resolution, which sometimes was resolving a conflict in the middle of class. And then most importantly, they learned about how the school district runs. So what's the structure of the school district? Who are the decision makers? How do you read a budget for a school? What committees decide what. And the reason why we did that is because during the first week of school, we spent a lot of time, the first month actually, just doing analysis. We did a lot of power analysis and analysis around like what their needs were. And I wanted to move them from a space of this is what we need to this is what we're about to get. This is what we're about to ask for. And we are empowered enough to not only just complain about it, but be a part of creating the solution. And so one prime example is Simran, who is a salutatorian, and she was in my class, and she didn't have a class after my class, and she would be there, she would stay after my class every time and debate me that they didn't have the power to change anything. This is the first 3 months of school. We would talk about sexism. You can't change sexism. We talk about anything in the whole wide world. She was a no, and it wasn't possible. And then after we worked with Ms. Dunn and won some changes in the school lunch, her perspective began to change. And the second to last week of school, she comes in my room and she goes, "Miss Celeste, yeah? You know, it's not fair that people who can't go on the senior trip don't have anything else to do. Da, 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 da. Well, Simran, what do you think should happen? I think there should be something just for people whose parents are strict, all inclusive for everyone to attend." And so I said, well, where would you want to go? And we researched some places. And I said, well, why don't you sit down with Shav? And she said, well, I might not be the good person. I said, well, identify someone and go and request it. And she never spoke to me about it. But 3 days later, they were going on this extra trip. And so it was a testament that she felt empowered to have a say in her school. Or Sam, who is in the meeting, who we were all in the meeting, and she's like, I don't understand this new soap. I think they put hand sanitizer by accident. And Shav walked by and she goes, hey, we need soap, but that she felt empowered enough. And Shav, was like, hey, how you doing first? And they had a conversation, and he got right on it. And she felt empowered and heard like she had power in making the decision. And those are just some of the stories that came out of leadership class. And sometimes in leadership class, we would just sit and talk because young people deal with trauma all the time in their lives and just need a space to just freely and openly express themselves, and I made sure that classroom was open to that. The other thing that we did was we ran a student organizing program. So we hired 7 young people at $200 a month, and they had to do at least 20 hours, but most of the time they did, Bria is one of them, most of the time they did about 40 hours a month rather. And in that 40 hours, they took on the responsibility to change their school culture and to make sure that students were engaged at every level. So our core group was about 35 people, including our leadership class. We supported the LSOs academically, and you see them all of the time. And supporting the LSOs academically looked like opening the office on a Saturday and a Sunday so they can come and study, getting tutors, things like that. And I think 5 out of the 7 actually raised their grades. And Corinne, who had a very low average, is now on the honor roll. The biggest thing that we did this year was around the LCAP and making sure that young people at Emery were engaged, fully engaged, and fully understood the LCAP process. And why that was important is because it was a new, complicated process that most adults didn't understand. So the question we were faced with was, well, how do we take this big concept and how do we break it down for ourselves, how do we break it down for the young people, and then how do young people teach each other about it and get enough information to have input our young people facilitated 5 LCAP workshops, 1 per grade, and then they did an extra one. And then they took the data, they learned how to what is the word? They learned how to collect data, and then they created a report from it. And then from that report, they presented it to you guys. They presented it back to the staff and to the administration. And I've been working really closely with Ms. Allen around making sure that they surveyed the students. So what the students wanted was in the LCAP. And they also formed the LCAP Student Advisory Board. And what's really powerful about our work around the LCAP is that we've been fighting on a state level to have youth engagement, and the state has not heard us. And districts all around California have been fighting for youth engagement. Small groups have been fighting their districts for youth engagement, and they haven't been heard. And Emery is one of the only districts that has created a successful model for student engagement around the LCAP. And I've been on conference calls talking about Emery. I was flown to LA to talk about the work that Emery is doing. And so we have some really remarkable students who have taken on this task and as far has exceeded expectations. The last thing is we made a little dent in the Emery's school climate. And the way that we did that was we did Unity Day, which we talked about here, and we did Unity Week, which was a week of activities. And this year, Unity Week the focus was ethnic studies, and every day we celebrated a different ethnicities at the school. And I think my favorite day was the last day. We had basketball games, and we had like this international soccer game happening, and then we had like some South Asian students DJing their hip hop South Asian music blend, and then we were passing out horchata pinatas. And so it's all this multiculturalism happening really naturally, and I think that is one of the beautiful things about Emery, and one of the things that we were able to celebrate, and people really appreciated each other. I liked seeing Eddie trying to learn the dance, the Punjabi dance, and seeing Isaac trying to figure out how to pass a soccer ball around in a circle, and now he plays with them at lunch. So just little things like that are powerful. And then we've done things, we are always at board meetings speaking up. We worked on school lunch and a whole plethora of other things. You see us all the time, so I won't get into all the details, but it's been an absolute pleasure being in this school district and coming here with welcoming arms. Because like I said, we are in many, many school districts, and 2 other school districts, and it's just not as easy. And people say they want student engagement, but haven't put that into practice. And though Emery is figuring out what student engagement looks like, but the willingness to partner with us to create it has been really remarkable, and has really changed the climate of Emery High School.
Thank you. Go for it.
I was just going to ask, do you want to speak to this, or do you want us to talk about another aspect of student engagement?
You got to talk in the mic.
I was just asking if you want to ask questions or make comments about this before Celeste talks about the Health and Wellness Center component, or should she keep going?
Oh, maybe we can just do questions real quick on what you covered now.
Okay.
Just to check. Just first to sweep. But I wanted to just appreciate the hard work Youth Together has provided in terms of services and support for our students. I think it is amazing, the gains in such a short span of time, for certain, to see that students feel empowered to speak up and not stand back, which is normally, what's expected of young people. And I think your point is well taken. I think we are still as a district, open to so much, engagement, especially from our students, and trying to figure it out at the same time. That I think even having the sweep of opportunities and what we've been able to witness has been really valuable. As I sit here, as a former student, I always raise that because I was a kid here. But I think that's what's really important, is that that you feel strongly about what it is, or passionate about what it is that you have concerns about, and finding ways to work through it to find a solution. So those are really great examples that you mentioned of students that have been able to feel that they could, move the agenda forward. So that's really great. Any questions from board members on this piece?
Yes. What are the names of your students who worked on your Unity Week and Unity Day? I think we should acknowledge them, even though they come up all the wait, am I on? Yeah. Okay. Even though we come up all the time, I think we should get acknowledged after that beautiful speech you just made about us.
Okay, so the first person is Bria Williams-Moeller, who is an absolute delight, and one of her ability to just connect with people of all grades in different cliques at school. You're already amazing, and I really look forward to seeing like where you're going post high school. Like it's gonna be great. Samara Alcutt, who just graduated. Tamara Dancy, Aaliyah Hardiman, Justice Perkins, Bianca O, Aaliyah Muhammad, Angel. I'm just going to name the core member, the LSOs. Is that okay, Bria?
No problem.
Okay.
and
Karain, and Karain Titus.
Great. Christian has a question.
Okay. So, I think what you presented was really great, and I'm coming late to the party, so I would like to know more about some of the things you talked about, and I'm just wondering, will there be a formal report of any kind other than just what you did today, or is there going to be something in writing? And if so, what kind of data have you done? Are you looking at the school climate surveys, or did you do some pre or post assessment with the kids? I think those are the sort of things that I really like to sink my teeth into.
So we didn't do a pre-survey, but we just finished a school-wide post-survey that we do every year at each school site. And I don't think that data will be ready until August. And I can create a report. It hasn't been requested of me, but I contributed to a report that Corey put together, but we can create a report just for Youth Together and crunch that data earlier than if necessary.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Real quickly, I just want to say that, I've really appreciate all the work that Youth Together has done with our students at the high school, especially around the empowerment, in leadership, the empowerment of public speaking, and that critical thinking, part regarding the work that they do. And, I know from my perspective, you're giving all, Youth Together is enabling our students to have all the elements that really Common Core is, it really wants to instill in our students, especially around the public speaking, the leadership, the, community engagement, in those areas. So I really want to commend You Together, because I've seen the growth in our students and the confidence, when they come and speak to the podium, or when they're interacting with adults. I can see that confidence now, and I think both You Together and Corey, yourself, has really instilled confidence in our students to be able to do the things that you all have them doing. So I just want to commend you on a good job that the organization has done for the benefit of student learning and student achievement.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay.